You know that feeling when your business hits a plateau and nothing seems to break through it? You've optimized everything, hired more people, maybe launched new products, but growth has just stalled. The conventional wisdom says work harder, hustle more. But deep down, you sense that more of the same won't create the breakthrough you need. The problem isn't your effort. It's that you're trapped in a mental model that makes exponential growth impossible. Today, you'll discover why this sort of thinking prevents your business from scaling. You'll learn how the right impossible goal acts as a filter, revealing exactly what's holding you back and what needs to go. By the end, you'll understand how scaling isn't about addition but subtraction. Not about doing more, but raising your standards so high that mediocrity becomes intolerable. Ready for a fundamental rewiring of how you see what's possible when you stop playing it safe? Let's go. Have you ever wondered why so many businesses, even those with great products and talented people, seem to hit a wall? They grow for a while and then just stop. The common advice is to work harder, to hustle more, but the real reason for stagnation is almost never about effort. The problem is deeper. It's rooted in the very way you see your business, your future, and what you believe is possible. To break through that wall, you need a fundamental shift in your thinking, a new model for growth that begins with how you see. Let's look at a moment in history when the stakes couldn't have been higher. In May 1961, President Kennedy faced multiple competing priorities during the Cold War. His initial plan, presented to Congress, was a scattered list of 7 different national objectives. The 7th item on that list, almost an afterthought, was advancing space exploration. At first, space seemed like a distraction. Then the idea took hold in Kennedy's mind. He realized that trying to do 7 things at once was a recipe for mediocrity. He needed something singular, something so audacious it would capture the world's attention and force the nation to innovate in ways no one thought possible. A year later, Kennedy stood before a crowd at Rice University. Space was no longer a footnote. It was the entire strategy. He declared, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade." This was a seemingly impossible goal tethered to an urgent deadline, and it acted as a razor-sharp filter. Suddenly, there was only one path that mattered: to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Most leaders set attainable goals and expect extraordinary results. That's why they fail to scale. But attainable goals are poor filters. They allow you to keep your existing systems, your comfortable assumptions, and all the complexity that holds you back. Without realizing it, Kennedy had created the perfect blueprint for scaling any venture. The model builds on 3 interconnected ideas. First, you must change your frame, the lens through which you see your business, defined by your goal. When you set an impossible goal, you create a new frame for reality. It forces you to filter your current business with unprecedented rigor, because from the perspective of an impossible goal, almost nothing you're currently doing is good enough. This leads to the second tenet, raising your floor. It's about what you eliminate, what you no longer do. For the moon mission, any project, process, or person not obsessively dedicated to that one goal fell below the floor and was discarded. Once that noise is gone, you're left with singular focus. With all distractions removed, you can accelerate your focus on the one direct path, the right partners, and the specific innovations needed to make the impossible a reality. This simple 3-part psychological shift, frame, floor, and focus, is the engine of exponential growth. Now that we've outlined the 3-part model for scaling your business, let's look at each component in more detail. So how exactly do you build a powerful frame? It all starts with defining your goal. A goal works as a strategic tool, a filter for reality. The goal you set determines what your brain pays attention to, what opportunities you see, and what actions you consider viable. When you set a small, reasonable goal, say 10% growth, you're using a weak filter. It allows you to keep doing what you've always done, just a little harder or faster. It justifies keeping your existing, unscalable systems and comfortable habits. This path leads to incremental improvement at best, predictable stagnation at worst. But a powerful frame requires a goal so big it seems impossible. Only a goal of that magnitude creates a filter sharp enough to cut through the noise of your current reality. Take Alicia Alt, a credit industry expert with a brilliant idea for a tool called Level Up Score. For almost 10 years, it stayed just that, an idea. Alicia was caught up running her successful but stagnant coaching practice, so consumed by the day-to-day that she couldn't make progress on the project that could actually scale. She had something special in her hands, but focusing on the present left no room to build the future. It's a common trap, working hard, yet not moving anywhere new. When Alicia finally decided to launch, she set what felt like a huge target, bringing on 100 credit repair companies in 90 days, which was a tenfold jump from her starting base of 10. But the only strategy she could imagine was doubling down on what she was already doing, personally making cold calls to demonstrate her product. Her impossible goal made her present reality more stressful. Then came the breakthrough. Alicia realized her original target wasn't bold, it was just exhausting. So she raised it, shifting from 100 clients to 1,000 in the same 90 days. The moment she made that commitment, her old approach collapsed. Cold calling suddenly made no sense. That bigger goal forced her to ask a new kind of question. As she put it, why aren't you calling software companies that are already marketing to your market? That question changed everything. Instead of chasing individual clients, she focused on finding a single leveraged partner. Through an introduction, she connected with the owner of a software company already serving 8,000 credit repair businesses. She pitched her product as a complementary add-on that would make his offering stronger. One conversation later, Alicia had gone from 10 clients to a potential market of 8,000, an 800x leap, powered by a better frame. And that's the beauty of the impossible goal. It forces you to find a completely new, more direct, and far more scalable path than before. A powerful goal is the first half of a world-class frame, but it's incomplete without its equally important partner, an impossible timeline. Psychologically, time isn't a fixed reality you move through. It's a strategic tool you can use to shape your decisions in the present. This is explained by Parkinson's law, which states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. If you give yourself a decade to achieve something big, it will take a decade. The long timeline justifies inefficiency and allows you to keep optimizing things that shouldn't exist. An aggressive, even absurd deadline works in the opposite way. It manufactures pressure so intense that it forces you to strip away every non-essential step, every false requirement, and every comfortable distraction. It forces you to find the one thing that truly matters. This shift happened to Richard Bryan, a CEO who for 15 years had been flying back and forth between his family in Colorado and his real estate business in the UK. He had a comfortable plan. By his 65th birthday, 11 years away, he would finally sell his investment portfolio, travel with his wife, and transition into full-time business coaching. The 11-year timeline felt responsible, but its length meant there was no urgency. It didn't require him to change anything today. During a routine training session, he was asked a simple question that shattered his comfortable reality. How would you achieve your goal if you only had 3 years? His initial reaction was rejection. It seemed impossible. But as he let the idea sink in, he realized there was a path. He would have to sell his portfolio sooner rather than continuing to grow it. Then came the push. What if he went for it in just 1 year? His mind reeled, but the answer came with shocking clarity. If he were to achieve his 11-year dream in a single year, his portfolio business was no longer the vehicle. It was the obstacle. From the perspective of a 1-year goal, keeping it made no sense. That night, he called his wife and committed to the impossible timeline. The next day, he began selling off properties. Within months, nearly half the portfolio was gone. He'd traveled through Europe with his family, and his coaching business was taking off. What he once imagined would take a decade happened in a matter of months. The impossible deadline forced him to identify the crux of his challenge. The single decision that once made would unlock everything else. An impossible goal with an impossible timeline creates a frame so powerful that it provides stark, undeniable clarity. The immediate effect? It exposes everything in your current business that's holding you back. This forces you to confront the second part of the framework, raising your floor. Your floor is your minimum standard of operation, and it's arguably the most critical element in scaling. Most people think growth comes from addition, adding new products, new clients, or new strategies. But true, exponential growth comes from subtraction. It comes from having the courage to quit the things that are holding you back. The primary reason people and companies fail to scale, their floor is too low. They tolerate mediocrity, justify complexity, and lie to themselves about what's truly working. Think about basketball player Zion Williamson. Coming into the professional league, his potential was almost limitless. He was a physical marvel, a combination of size, speed, and power that the sport had never seen. Everyone expected him to become one of the all-time greats. In fact, his career has been largely a disappointment. The reason isn't talent, it's his incredibly low floor. His lack of discipline with diet and conditioning means he's consistently overweight and frequently injured, playing in only about half of his team's games. His ceiling might touch the sky, but when your floor is in the basement, you can't perform consistently. A low floor makes you unreliable, and in business, unreliability is death. A business's floor is defined by the leader's willingness to be honest. The single biggest reason entrepreneurs don't scale is that they don't stop lying to themselves. You might be lying about an underperforming team member who's a friend but is holding the company back. You might be lying about a legacy product line you're emotionally attached to but which isn't scalable. Or maybe it's about a difficult client who drains your team's energy but accounts for predictable revenue. Raising your floor means confronting these brutal truths. It requires having uncomfortable conversations and making unpopular decisions. It means letting go of uncommitted people, firing clients who aren't a good fit, and eliminating services that create distraction. A low floor creates complexity. A high floor creates simplicity. Look at Steve Jobs' return to Apple in 1997. The company was on the verge of bankruptcy and drowning in complexity, trying to design, market, and support around 350 different products. Jobs' first move was to raise the floor. He took a machete to the product line, slashing it from 350 down to about 10. He said no to hundreds of good ideas to create space for a few great ones. This strategic elimination was painful, but it saved Apple and created the foundation for it to become the most valuable company in the world. Raising your floor is the hardest part of scaling because it means letting go of what feels safe. But as long as you cling to the familiar, you stay stuck. Subtraction strips away the clutter and leaves only the essentials of your business. Once you raise that floor, the noise is gone and your path forward is clear. So, you've stripped away the complexity and uncovered a clear, direct path. But even the best path won't take you anywhere without an engine to drive you forward. That engine is people. Specifically, finding the right ones to power your growth. This is often the most challenging hurdle for a successful founder. As you grow, it's easy to fall into the trap of becoming the bottleneck. You build a company that revolves around you. You're the master problem solver, the chief decision maker, the sun around which all other planets orbit. Jim Collins calls this the leader with 1,000 helpers, and while it can make you feel indispensable, it puts a hard ceiling on your growth. A business built around one person can never scale beyond that one person's capacity. To create something that can truly scale, you need to adopt a different mindset, one best exemplified by George Washington. After serving 2 terms as the first president, he had the adoration of a nation. Many wanted to make him king, but Washington knew that for the American experiment to survive and scale, it couldn't be dependent on him. He chose to step down, explaining that if he said goodbye, the nation would learn to move on and outlive him when he was gone. This is the mindset of a true scaler. You have to be willing to build something that should succeed without you. And it leads directly to the final component, an obsessive focus on talent. To achieve an impossible goal, you can't rely on an average workforce that needs to be managed. You need superwhos, individuals who belong to the top 1% of their field. Research shows that in creative and results-based roles, a top performer can be 10, 100, or even 10,000 times more valuable than an average one. These people, when presented with your impossible goal, are energized rather than intimidated. They want to be led, not managed. Reed Hastings understood this perfectly when building Netflix. In the early days, with limited funds and enormous technical hurdles, he faced a crucial decision: stretch the budget to hire 10 to 25 average engineers, or bet big on a single rock star and pay them far more. He chose the rock star every time, realizing that the best programmer adds closer to 100 times the value. This philosophy became the engine of Netflix's explosive growth. When you bring a superstar onto your team, they elevate the standards for everyone around them. They raise the entire team's floor. The paradox is striking. To build something bigger than yourself, you must first become smaller. Your role shifts from star player to talent scout, creating a gravitational pull that draws the best people in the world to your impossible mission. When you combine an impossible frame with a raised floor and the right people, you become unstoppable.